Welcome to the DwigAmerica podcast. And now your host, Todd Dwiggins.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Whenever you're listening, welcome to the DwigAmerica podcast. I'm your host, Todd Dwiggins, coming to you from the DwigAmerica studios here in beautiful Central Texas. A bit humid today, only in the 70s, very humid. Cold front coming through. We're going to chill out to about 50, which is nice if you live up north. But here people start saying how cold it is, which is quite amusing. All right, so on today's podcast, I'm going to continue a little bit on the narrative that I started on the last one. The last podcast, I talked about how I met my wife. And so I'm going to move on from that to our first date. Now, for most people, a first date, at least for me, a first date usually consisted of dinner, a movie, maybe a dance or something like that in college. Something rather casual, something rather ordinary. I think my very first date, I think we went to miniature golf. Putt-putt is what we called it. Miniature golfing. So nothing too exciting or extraordinary. But then there was my wife. Or my future wife. So as I said, I met my wife. I knew my friend who had dated her before would be a little uncomfortable with me dating her. And so as we talked about it at school, like, you know what, let's wait till Christmas break to go on our first date. So that was the plan. She was going home to Wisconsin. I was going home to Indiana. She said, you know what, I'll borrow a car from my parents and I'll drive down to see you in Indiana because she'd been there before. So I thought, great, perfect, sounds great. So I call her up. Well, let me go back a little bit too. Not back, but let me explain a little bit what was going on at the time. So again, it's Christmas time, and she decided she was going to come down on December 28th, which was a Saturday. And what happened was on Christmas Eve that year, the 24th. My grandfather, who was old and had been in a nursing home for quite a while, passed away, which honestly was a blessing to everyone because my brother was home. He lived out of town, and he was in the Army. I was at home from college, and so it was kind of a blessing that we were all home so we could say goodbye to him. We saw him the day he passed away, or the day before he passed away. We were able to talk to him and see him. So anyway, that happens. And my future wife finds out about this and says, maybe is this not a good time to come down? There's a funeral going to happen. I said, no, my grandfather would be so disappointed if I canceled this specific date. Because of a funeral. The funeral was going to take place earlier on that Saturday, or maybe even the day before. So it's fine. Come on down. It's not like we were shocked. This was kind of an expected thing. So it's fine. Come on down. So she says, well, my parents won't lend me the car. And I thought, oh. For a second, I was kind of in shock. Like, your parents won't lend you the car. What's going on? Well, her dad is, I think I may have mentioned this before, her dad is a private pilot. And so he said, well, we'll fly you down. So her mom and dad decided they wanted to meet this guy that she was talking about, which I think is a little unusual. I don't think most parents are like, ooh, let me go meet this person. We'll fly down and meet him. But that's the deal. So we go to the airport on the 28th, that Saturday. And I'm there, and my parents are there because her parents are coming down. My brother, who loves airplanes and has his private pilot's license, he was excited that someone was flying an airplane down, so he wanted to see the airplane. So he was there with his wife. And my sister shows up, and there's a lot of people here. And this is our first date. So I'm a little overwhelmed at this point. This seems like a lot. But they fly in. We talked about, how would you greet each other? This is going to be awkward with everyone around. Do we shake hands? We give each other a hug? Everyone's going to be watching. This is so awkward. So anyway, she comes in, they land and everything. My brother checks out the plane and we chit chat for a while and said, well, let's go get some, my parents are like, let's all go get some lunch. It's lunchtime. So she gets in my car, my little 4-door silver Chevette. Well, it was my car I was using while I was in Indiana. We get in that car, we drive off. Her parents ride with my parents, and we go to a barbecue place in town. It's no longer there in Indiana. Anyway, we go there, and we're sitting. My future wife and I are sitting across from each other. Her parents are there, my parents are there, and we're looking at each other like, this is awkward. We cannot have a conversation. Everyone's listening in. They want to know what we're talking about. It just felt so weird. So finally, I think my parents and her parents are like, hey, we're going to go out and about. You guys go take off and have fun. So we're like, all right. Well, I didn't know what to do at Kokomo, Indiana, what you do for a date. So we went to my parents' house and we watched I don't even remember what movie it was. We watched a movie. And right about when that was over, I think my parents call from my sister's house because they were over there visiting with her parents. So what are you guys doing? So we're just finished watching a movie. What are you doing? They said, well, we're about to come back to the house. So we said, well, then we're headed out. So we take off. And I'm a classy dude. It shows you how much money I had back in the day. But we stopped at McDonald's. I know, super classy. Honestly, I was thinking I was need something quick to eat. So anyway, that's just something my wife can always hang over my head. Hey, thanks for taking me to McDonald's on our first date. So we went there. Then we drove out to the country to one of my best friends' houses. I have a couple good friends, and there was my one that introduced Wendy to me that was out in Utah. And then there was my other friend that I went to go visit. So we go visit him and his wife. And we are laughing. We're having a good time and enjoying the evening. And then we leave. And my friend calls me back. And they're like, hey, so do you think this is going to go anywhere? And I said, hey, if she will keep going out with me, that's who I'm going to marry. And they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, I know it. This is who I'm going to marry. Anyway, so we head off. We go to my sister's house. Then we get a phone call from my parents at my sister's house. They said, hey, there's some fog that rolled in. I think it was in Wisconsin. So they can't fly out tonight. Her parents are going to stay all night at our house. What are you going to do? So my sister said that my future wife could stay in my niece's room and I could sleep on the couch. So that's what we did. I think we watched another movie. Then she slept in my niece's room. I slept on the couch. And the next day was Sunday, so we all went to church together with all the families. And then her parents are like, well, what do you want to do? Do you want to fly back with us or what? And I said, hey, I will gladly drive her back tomorrow. So that would be the 30th of December. So this is the 29th. This is day 2. So they're like, okay. So they fly out on the 29th. And Wendy stays with my parents at my parents' house in our guest room. And that was Sunday. I don't remember much about what we did. I think probably watched some more movies or something like that. I don't know. And that was Sunday. And then so Monday morning, she had a doctor's appointment, a dentist appointment, I think that Monday afternoon. So we left fairly early on Monday morning. And we drove 4.5, 5 hours back to Wisconsin and straight to her dental appointment. And as we come back from that, her sister pulls up and I meet her sister. And I'm like, oh, hey, nice to meet you. So this is day 3 now, the 30th of December. And we went downtown Milwaukee. We went to the mall downtown Milwaukee. Went to the Water Street Brewery there. Hung out pretty much Monday. And I think that's when we were driving back when she asked me, do you think this should be an exclusive thing, or are we just having a good time? And I was like, I plan on this being a serious thing if you are. And she's like, good. Okay, good. We're on the same page. I think that's what happened. Again, I have this all written down somewhere. I'm just doing this all by memory at this point. I'm probably leaving out a lot of details for as detailed as this has already been. Anyway, let's move on. So that's the 30th. I sleep in the den and or in her dad's office, actually. I slept on a kind of pull-out bed in her dad's office that night. Then the next morning is the 31st. And she's like, oh, do you want to stay here for New Year's? And I would have loved to, but the 31st is also my father's birthday. And we have a tradition of all getting together for my father's birthday. Says, well, I probably should go back. We'd been together on the 28th, 29th, 30th, 31st. It's probably 4 days is a pretty long first date. So I said, okay, why don't you give me a call tomorrow or tonight or whatever, and we'll talk. Sounds good. I head off, go back to Indiana, enjoy my dad's birthday. She doesn't call that night, and I don't even know if she called the next day. And I started to get really, really nervous, and not getting a phone call. I finally get a phone call. I think, I don't know, maybe it's only a day or so later. But again, when you're really, into this whole new relationship thing, the adrenaline, the feelings are high and everything. So I was nervous. So she calls up and she's like, hey, I'm not trying to push anything, but I'm just letting you know, I got proposed to. I was like, what? And she's like, yeah, one of my old boyfriends from high school kind of showed up with a ring and said it was mine if I wanted it. So I'm just saying, if you think this, again, if this is something you think is going to go somewhere, if this is just for fun or what. And so I thought, I am not losing out to this guy or without staking my claim, so to speak. I guess that's the best way to put it. And I said, look, I plan on dating you. I'm going to get engaged to you. I'm going to marry you. And she was like, whoa, okay, well, I guess we know where that stands. And so that's where I will leave it for now. I left her in shock. Maybe I left you in shock. I don't know. But that is it. That is the first date. And that is probably the quickest version. I've done it in under 15 minutes. Again, left out a lot of probably details, and I probably put in a lot of details that weren't necessary. But anyway, thanks for listening to this episode of the DwigAmerica podcast. I hope you did enjoy it. If you did, or if you didn't, whatever, you can always contact me at DwigAmerica@gmail.com. So again, thanks for listening, and until next time, so long, everybody.